I'm Trevor Blumenau, CEO of Voodoo Robotics. In this video, I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into use of our REST API. In this video, we're going to talk about creating some functions that may be useful to you in communicating with our devices.
So in the last video, we made this post call over here, and I've cleaned up things a little bit and turned this into a function now so that we have a command. And Python is very nice in that you can put in expected parameters and their values. You can predefine defaults, and you'll see in a moment that you can actually put parameters in different orders, but this is sort of a generic definition of a command function right here, and you can see that I take these parameters and use the device ID to build the endpoint over here before I submit the JSON. Very similar to what we did before, but now made much more generic. You can also see I added a default sound. This 15C54 is actually a beep sound, 15 being the tempo, C in the 5th octave held for 4 beats. And that's just the default parameter there, and you'll see in a moment that we can override that. Okay, so let's use that command here. You can see we're going to call that command with this pick yellow t-shirts, and let's run this code and we'll see what it does. Let's see there. It's going to light up, and notice the color we're using here is GR, which is green and red, which turns into sort of a almost yellowish color. You can combine two colors. You can use red, green, or blue, or any combination of those two, and they're just referred to by the first letter. Okay, so now let's look at what happens if we actually do two commands at the same time. This is very interesting. Let's send that same device two commands at the same time, and let's see what happens. Let's send both of those, and you'll see that, well, the first one appears, and then you'll see now the second one appears. And in fact, you can actually see that the light changes between them. Let me slide the device over, you can see that light a little bit better. And here we go back to the first one again, where we're illuminating in yellow. And then notice that there's also a bit of a white flash to the light. And what that white flash indicates is to the picker that there's more than one command pending on this device, so that they should look a little bit more carefully at what's contained on the device. You know, if you're passing by a device very quickly, you don't, and you see, let's say your picking color is red, and you see a light that's yellow. Well, if it's got some white in it, don't ignore it, because it might turn to red in a moment if there's more than one command on that device. And of course, we try to avoid overlapping commands, as much as possible. It happens, particularly it happens when you have one device for more than one location. You're much more likely to see overlap commands. But generally, those events are fairly rare. Okay, so let's comment out these lines now. Let's move on to this lower line over here. In this line, we're going to do things that are very similar here. And notice that we're going to use the quantity parameter, and we're going to use green and blue. But this time we're going to set the command to a display command. And let's run that, and you'll see a little bit of a difference there. And here we go. So here you can see sort of a cyan color on the display, and notice that the light is not actually flashing now. That's the difference between the command default over here, which is flash, versus this display command. It's just whether that LED is flashing, and it's actually better to flash the LED. You actually use less power when you're flashing the LED. So we encourage it for that reason, but you may want to just have a static light. So what you would do there is you just set your command to display. Okay, so how about something a little bit more complicated than that? Let's look at these next couple of lines over here. Let's do these next two lines. And here you can see we've added a pretty long sound. And we're going to actually make the device light up now for 30 seconds. So let's play that one and you can see what that does. That's the little theme song from the Twilight Zone. Now, these tunes, again, the way that the format works is that this is the tempo, and then you've got a G in the 5th octave sharp, so it's a sharp G, held for 2 beats, then an A in the 5th octave for 2 beats, etc. And we have a bunch of these sounds that are pre-canned. You can build your own if you know a little bit about music theory, and you can have custom sounds for different pickers and things like that. But in general, we actually discourage the use of sound because it uses up way more batteries, and particularly a long sound like this uses way more batteries than what you would find on a typical call. And so for that reason, we often just say, set the sound value to the phrase none, and then you don't get any sound, and your batteries will last much, much longer than using a long sound like what you just heard. Okay, so let's go on a little bit. How about let's make another function over here. Let's copy this function, and we'll use it to generate statics. So let's put in static A here, and do this. Just build another function here. I had a bit of an accident there. We've got static A, make this static B, static C, static D, and static E. And then what makes sense for us here is to put in a location parameter. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. Certainly we want to take this JSON out and replace that, but I think what we may want to do is we may want to see if a location is set, because we don't really want to overwrite a location. So let's do, let's divide this up. We'll make 2 of these. Let's say static A colon so we'll have B, C, D, and E. Whoops. B, C, and D. Okay, now what I'd like to do is just duplicate this. That's interesting. And let's say call this do statics. I think actually, you know what? Let's leave this location for a different command. We'll do that. I think that that's a good function to have. And so now let's instead of saying do command over here, let's comment this one out. Let's do, whoops, do statics, and let's say, well, let's say SKU 1001, and let's say the quantity here is going to be 6. Stored in this location. Oh, and then of course we need the device ID can't forget the device ID. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay, very nice. So we could call this with something else. Let's say we switch and we decide, well, we want to use an icon and a barcode, let's say. I see bottom left and let's say barcode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's try that. And you can see there that our device updates with those values. Okay, so we got the do statics. Let's write another function now. Let's copy this one over. And let's do a set location. And we're just going to put in here location. And then the parameter we're going to use is location override. And okay, I think what we should do actually is do a location and an area. And then our location override can be a area plus the pipe character plus location. And we can take these things out of here. Okay, so now we can, let's take the statics out of here, comment that out, and say set location well, okay, so we got the device first. Let's do the device first. And then we've got location and area. So we'll say, we could do it like this. We could say area equal aisle SLE 3, comma, location equal shelf 5A, let's say. Okay, let's try that. Now, of course, this you're not going to see, right? Because we have some statics. So you can see the device got updated there, but the statics are essentially in front of that location information. So let's push the button and make sure that that is in fact the case. There you can see aisle 3, shelf 5A. And of course, just to emphasize what we said before, if we come in here, let's comment this out, and let's do statics, we just set the device ID, then essentially we're removing all of the static messages, and hopefully we get to see the location again, because all those static messages now disappear. There are no static messages stored for that device. There you go. Okay, so let's talk about some other commands that we can do here. Let's do, for example, a reset. Let's say reset, and we'll just do device ID, and we're just going to say command, and we're just going to put in here the direct word reset. Okay, so now we can say reset. And let's comment this guy out. And let's run that, see what happens. Now we've sent it a reset signal. Now that's interesting because there's no actual command pending on it. So let's do a reboot. If there were any commands pending on this device, a reset will take out all of those commands. So let's do a reboot rather. A reboot is as if you put in the batteries again. So we do a reboot and set the command to reboot. Let's call that, and then you'll see what that looks like. And here we go. So there's a reboot. Going to reboot, goodbye, and it should restart. There we go. So you see the logo, and the interesting thing is that it's going to come back with you know, the location and area that we've set for that device. You know, after a few seconds, it'll update the display. Well, it'll also update the static information if you've got any static information there too. So if we had set, let's say, for example, let's go back and reset these statics over here for a moment. We'll comment this guy out and run that. So now in the device we have the statics and we have location and area are all set in the memory of Big Block. And we'll comment this guy out and let's do a reboot again. And you'll see we should come back to the same static display after a few seconds after doing a reboot. There's our reboot going into the device. We start up with the Voodoo Robotics logo. And there we go, back to the statics. Excellent. Okay, so another command that I want to show you is the kill command. So let's take this definition of our reboot function, and let's put it in again, and we'll call this kill. And our command will be kill instead of reboot. And we can add here another parameter called a nonce. Now this is an identifier that we have to add in order to kill a command. Remember that you can have overlapping commands on a device. So if we're going to kill a particular command, we need to be able to specify which command we want to kill. So what is this nonce? Well, we can go back here and actually say in our do command, we can specify a nonce. And this is a parameter that you can add over here to identify a particular command. This is also very useful in our feedback process, so you can get acknowledgments using this nonce. The feedback we'll talk about in a different video, how you use these nonces to identify whether a picker pushed a button or not, whether you get an ACK or a NACK. But that's fodder for another video. But the point is that each command can have a nonce associated with it, a unique identifier that you get to choose. And so then when you, let's say, do your command over here, let's adapt this one over here. We can say, comma, nonce equals, and then I'm just going to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll say seconds equals 100 just to give us a little bit of time. So we're going to run this command now, and remember we are running it a little differently in that we're telling it the identifier that we want. So let's run that command right now. We do that command, and so you can see that that command is now pending on the device. And so let's comment that guy out, and now we'll use our kill routine. of course we have to add the nonce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so now if we run that, we should kill that pending command on that device. And we should come back, there we go, back to the statics that we had set before. Okay, so that's all very nice. Let's do one other thing just to show off some capabilities. One last thing. I want to show you how you would send multiple calls at the same time. Certainly you can make multiple calls to this do command over here, but there is certainly a way to call multiple items at the same time. Let's say you want to ping the same device, or maybe you want to set the same locations in multiple on multiple devices. So we could say do commands, and then let's put oh, I don't know, let's say device ID 1, and then instead of this we'll say device ID 2 and device ID 3. And then inside our JSON, we're actually going to create an array. Now this is going to be interesting. How do we create an array? Well, we're going to make multiple of these, and we'll put an array starter over here. And we probably want to indent this. Let's see here. Like that. And then an array in there. Okay, so we're creating an array in here. Okay, so we've got 3 of them right now. And in here, we're going to say device ID colon device ID 1. And we're going to say in the second one, oops, device ID 2. And in the third one, we'll say device ID, whoops, getting a little bit backwards here. Let's do it like this. Device ID 3, and then a comma. Okay, this one needs a comma too. This one needs a comma. Okay, now these commands, well, we don't have these as parameters, but let's say we wanted to do a flash on all of them. So we would just say, set this to flash, and let's say, I'm going to say 1 of, whoops, and we'll take the rest of this stuff out. These things can all be defaulted, obviously. So let's just copy these, and we'll use this just to make a point here. Now, the interesting thing here is that you're going to use a different endpoint. Notice we've got device ID. Oh, wait, wrong function. This is the one we're looking at. Notice we've got device ID right here. Right, that's not going to work. So what we use is we use the devices endpoint without the suffix. And that's very important because when you're using an array, you want to send it to a different, you're going to post it to a different output. So we're going to use 3 different device IDs to do the same command on all 3 devices. And the way that we call that is we would just say do commands, now plural, and we can put in, 3 of our device IDs, one of which would be this one, let's say, You get the idea. I'm just going to put in comma, dot, dot, dot. You can fill that in. And I'll leave it as an exercise for you to try that out. We will come back and do some more in the next video. We appreciate your time and patience in watching these videos, and I hope that you are getting some useful information out of them. Thank you for your time.